What is up, everybody? Welcome back. You are now listening to episode 8, fresh off the press, baby. You know, just like all the other ones, Nate and I had a good time. Talked about a lot of good shit on this one. Really excited, a lot of energy. Yeah, we can't wait for you to listen. Check it out. Thanks so much. Welcome to the 8th episode. Boing.
So yeah, the Marcus Aurelius thing. By the way, so like listening through like our last one, our energy is so different on these Zoom ones.
What do you mean?
Uncontrollably, like we're just like lower energy. We're not as like like all over the place, you know? I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like we're like chained stallions right now. And like in person, it feels like we're on the open plain.
Yeah, dude. Like, dude, the Shimmeron, like, kind of thing, dude. Like, dude, I feel you. I think it's like, yeah, I totally agree. I like when we're together, dude. Just a different kind of energy.
It's also just literally the fact that we're like recording. Like
Yeah,
something about staring into a computer screen. It's just like,
I know. We just done it so much already too. We've done it so much already this semester that it's like,
yeah. God damn.
I
Okay,
know.
all right. So Marcus Aurelius and his 5 meditations. So he has Marcus Aurelius has these 5 books, and they're really all just summaries of one really long form thought that he's had, and each one focuses on something else. So one of them might be like, you know, empathy, or another one might be conscientiousness or mindfulness or something like that. And I think it was book 2, but I don't totally remember. Um, but one of his books where he is talking about mindfulness, empathy, and just, being a good person. One of the things that he said that really stuck with me, and hopefully this makes you go like the same way it like blew my mind.
Yeah.
Uh, he goes, somebody's ability to be empathetic is directly correlated to the amount of empathy they have for themselves. So you can only be as empathetic to another person as you can be to yourself. Meaning some people really hold themselves to a crazy high standard, right? And if you don't give yourself any kind of leeway there, how can you ever have any kind of good
Mm.
relationship, right?
That makes a lot of sense.
Doesn't it? I
I
was like,
like that.
oh,
I
it's
feel
cool.
like empathy is like the fuel to your relationship with other people. Like if you're the car, empathy is the gas. And like if you run on empty, like you're not gonna get where you want to go.
Yeah, yeah. That's totally true, because it's a catalyst for so many things. Um,
Mm.
for being able to just like communicate better, but also being able to understand. I mean, that probably sounds a little like what should we call it, double speaky, or redundant, because like empathy is just understanding, but I mean more so like what you're saying, right? Like if you need to interact with somebody in any way, like your teacher, they
Yeah.
assign something or they treat you a certain way,
Mm.
you can probably get over it if you're going to be empathetic.
Right.
Your teammate doesn't give you the ball or is like fucking you up, you just be like, well, why are they acting that way?
Mm.
And even without having the answer to that, I think you can still be empathetic, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think, dude, like it comes into every single encounter with like other people. And I think especially something that I've found is it's a lot harder to have like branching off of this statement. This doesn't like exactly go with it, but it's like a new like let's add like another like uh statement below it. You know what I mean? Like add to the thing. I think that it's a lot harder to have empathy for people you don't know. That sounds super obvious, but like when I'm in a relationship with somebody, like a friendship or like, with Carolyn or with my mom or dad, I don't know. It's different. Like you have a different sort of empathy towards them. Whereas like if it's some random person on the street that's being a dick, it takes so much more like conscientiousness to be like, well, that guy might be having a bad day. Because it's way easier to just be like, fuck him. Like, and even though I give myself a break when I'm not having a good day, like it's a lot harder to give that break to somebody who I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, but okay, this is what I meant. This is what I was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like the true empathy thing isn't just understanding. It's like acceptance and love, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
so
Forgiveness.
yeah, yeah, yes, yeah. Right? Because like understanding implies this thing where it's like you need to know something. It's almost like understanding sounds like an intellectual pursuit, but I
Yeah.
feel like um, acceptance and empathy
Emotional.
feel, yeah, exactly.
Emotional pursuit.
They talk about how they like Christians, people like religious people. They talk about how Jesus was able to, love everything. And I remember hearing that as a kid, and I was like, "What the fuck? Like, what does that even mean? Is that even a virtue, being able to love everyone?" And now it's like, I'm sure you feel the same way hearing that, like, whoa, being able to love everybody in a way that everybody can tell that they are loved by this one person. That's empathy in like its most wildest degree. Like,
Yeah.
I,
And it seems almost humanly impossible, which is why they might have given that characteristic to Jesus. Like
yeah,
that just seems so far out of the realm of like most people's energy. But you do
right.
know and see people in history that are portrayed to have acted that way, like whether that's the truth or not. And I think like sometimes, it's not just famous people that we have read about in history. Like you probably know somebody like that that's like just has so much to give, and like it seems like something is wrong, like it can't even be real. Like I kind of get a little like, I get like a little like mistrusting of those people because I'm like, I don't even know if that's like really possible for somebody to be that wholesomely good.
Yeah, yes. I can empathize with that so much. The feeling of like, well, isn't this bullshit? Um, like, but that's kind of what like monks are supposed to be. Like, or
Yeah.
maybe we shouldn't even confuse ourselves or like really worry about like an extreme paradigm because the pardon me, fuck. Very few things in like the human experience. Oh my God. Yo, I'm gonna revisit this thought, but for those unaware people, this is like a coffee flavored like beer. The burps from it are the worst thing ever.
You
It's like,
good?
yeah. It tastes like throw up.
Fuck.
Okay,
You need
so
water?
uh I'm gonna suffer through it. I'm gonna suffer through it.
Wash it down.
Yeah, yeah. So I think what I was trying to say is with the whole human condition, there are very few things that are extremes, right? You
Yeah.
very rarely have somebody who is totally evil. You very rarely have somebody who is totally, good or nice or compassionate. There's always some kind of caveat to everything. There's gray. It's not all black and white. Um, so this like the being really empathetic, like, yeah, Jesus was told to have, or I'm sorry, is he's talked about as being extremely empathetic. And what you're saying about there being multiple people throughout history that are talked about as being super empathetic,
Mm-hmm.
they probably weren't actually, but it doesn't matter because we're
How they're
getting
perceived.
right, right. Or even if they were perceived in a way that is not accurately reflected by historical records, it doesn't matter because um, we now have something to look up to. And this is another thing that Marcus Aurelius talks about with his meditations. He talks about how if you don't have the strength of will, then what can you do to bolster that?
Mm.
Look to somebody else who does. right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Jesus might not be real, and it doesn't have to be Jesus. It can be whoever.
Yeah, that's dope.
Right? It's like it could be totally fake, but as long as you believe it, it's going to give you that little bit of added gumption to be like, oh, what would they do in this situation? Like, I know this is a free ad for the WWJD like wristbands people wear, but
Dude, what would Jesus do? Like,
Mhm.
but we do that, and like you said, it doesn't have to be Jesus. Like exactly what you said, something totally clicked when you were talking about the extreme versions is not where the majority of people lie, because the majority of people end up idolizing those extremes.
Yeah,
And oftentimes, those extremes either get you to the top or the very bottom, right? So it's like extreme indulgence in something that's going to negatively affect you is still extreme, but it's going to,
yeah,
bring you down. But extreme indulgence in, I don't know, acting, in business, in like anything that can make you famous, everyone looks into that so heavily. It's like Jesus. It's like Kim Kardashian. It's like anyone with an extreme pursuit or anyone with extreme power is that, minimal percent of people, but those are who we idolize. So that carries a lot of weight.
what's really interesting about the extreme thing too, because like you just said some shit that made some gears click in my head. Like our society, we're putting that shit on a pedestal, right?
Mhm.
All
Hard.
of those, yeah, those extreme views of, or I'm sorry, those extreme ways of being of like actors or the Kardashians or Jesus, those are all things that don't really carry over to other cultures. Like, um, if you told a Kenyan man who is like trying to, just harvest his grain every year or every season, what Kim Kardashian recently did, or the fact that like Caitlyn Jenner is happily transitioned and living her life, he would be like, fuck you, man. I don't care. I don't care at
Mhm.
all. But if you pass on some of those wisdoms that, like, for instance, like the Buddha or some of the teachings of Jesus that become more universal, because like I'm not a religious person, but I have family members who are, and hearing some of the lessons of the Bible or some of the teachings of Buddha, like all of those kinds of things, and I'm sure this is the case for every other world religion. There are some things that are totally universal. They
Yeah.
are not about the extremes, and that's what really carries over. But
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
it's almost like if we really want to be successful in a very mortal, finite, and socially isolated way, meaning like, we'll be successful in the West, then we'll play toward those extremes. But it's like this easy trap of, you know, how hard is it to be extreme? Not that hard. You
Yeah.
just have to sink into it. It's a lot harder to find balance and be like really efficient in the way that, not only efficient but also like smart in the way that you are finding that balance and applying it. I know this
Yeah.
is all over the place, but
No, that's good.
I'm hoping that like
And Nate,
puts some meaning forth.
think about, for me specifically, think about like when you say that, I think about people like Matthew McConaughey or let's see, who else do I know like semi well, like just people that have made it, but then have found that balance too. Like they're that extreme, but like they don't act extreme. Like you can tell that
Yeah.
like they like even though they are on that other end of the spectrum, they have found that kind of like from our outside in view, which could be totally wrong. Like it seems like people like that have found a way to be at balance with themselves. So like that's
Yeah.
kind of the goal.
Dude, I don't want to villainize anybody who is,
Right.
existing within that extreme, because, they're not doing any damage. Power to them. Um, oh.
We do the damage, right?
Yeah, we do the damage to ourselves when
By
we start,
idolizing.
exactly. When we start having that role model be the wrong person, when
Yeah.
we don't have that be something like, when it's not somebody who's balanced, when it's not somebody who has a good virtue at heart, Um, Once we just go, well, they make a lot of money, or they're really popular, or they drive a car that I wish I drove, then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, you know, what are you really doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially, I mean, wealth, like wealth is one of those huge things because in a lot of ways, wealth is just a lottery. Like, if you get really, really, really rich, odds are it's going to happen at least 50% through chance. It just has to. Because how many people set out to get really rich and apply themselves fully and put forth all of their effort and make risky financial decisions, but it's only for some people that it pays off.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people like to say, well, I was smart about it. I hit the right bubble at the right time. It's like, did you? Or were you just lucky? And there's no problem there. It's just like, I'm so fucking sick of seeing all of these people going, I hit a bubble and not admitting it. Instead, they're like, oh, I'm a business like guru and here's how to succeed. It's like, no,
My
dude.
course. Here's my online $50 a week course.
Exactly, exactly. Just admit it. Just admit that you hit the bubble. Like you got lucky.
Yeah. And
If
some of the people that didn't get lucky, but that did still make it, like they, I found will often give you their information for free. They don't need to sell it to you because, and that's really cool. That's what I really like about Gary Vee for anyone who watches him. He like completely, like his backstory is that his dad was an immigrant, and his dad owned a liquor store and he worked for his dad after college for like uh years, I don't know, and he made it into like a multi-$100 million business, and then he like started over and then he left it to his dad and then started his own business, that kind of thing.
uh,
Just been like really smart about trends and shit. But like what he does is like over the quarantine, he would go on Tea with Gary Vee and do like 2 hours every single day of people who look up to him or like wanted information from him, and he would like go on this exact thing like a Zoom call, and they would be like, oh my god, Gary Vee, what's up? And he's like, hey man, like how you doing, whatever. And then he would give advice on their pursuit for free, and like then he would
that's
post it.
cool.
It's
Yeah,
so
that's
cool. So I think it's cool. Like I don't know. I think just like this goes back to the empathy thing. He talks about empathy nonstop. It's part of like a big reason why I had included it in my vocabulary recently. It's like you have to look at things with that like lens, like, and it's so hard to do, like we were saying.
yeah.
But yeah, people end up getting fucked over by idolizing, whether it's luck or not. Like that doesn't mean that you need to like be that person or you need to live in that person's world to be happy.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Whoa, did
Cracking
you know how
anyone?
smooth that shit was?
So smooth.
That felt like an agile movement, man.
Dude, you were loose, bro. Look what I got. Got my cooler this time. My
Whoa.
shit got cold last time. I don't have a micro fridge, so
The micro fridge is such a fucking waste of money. It just heats up and takes up electricity. My room's like 5 degrees warmer because it's in here. Sucks.
oh, I couldn't deal with that. I'm like a windows open in the winter kind of guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's nice here because I have a fan that I can like run, but at school, nothing. Um,
Nothing.
yeah. But okay, dude, I'm sorry. I was paying attention to what you were saying, but I've almost lost the train of thought. I know you were, what was that New England existentialism thing that you had like?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's get into that. I was actually just gonna bring
Okay.
that up. So this is something that I came across in my history course, and it is called New England Transcendentalism.
Okay.
So I didn't know if this is like a philosophy. I didn't know if you had like how familiar. I know you read the document I sent you, but how familiar were you with it before?
Zero.
Okay.
Never heard of it. New England Transcendentalism, never.
Okay. So transcendentalism is a Kant theory, from what I understand, but New England transcendentalism was inspired by Kant, but not really like created by him, if I have this right. So
Okay.
uh,
So it's like a branching off by like individual authors and thinkers and stuff.
yeah, and those individual authors and thinkers are David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo, and this woman named Margaret Fuller. So everyone probably knows who David Thoreau is, and I didn't look too much into Margaret Fuller, but Ralph Waldo like had written some literature on this subject. So essentially, let me just see if I can. You
All
think
of those names sound like super familiar. Aren't those they sound like all of like the great American authors of like the 20th century.
it's the well, yeah, it's the mid. No, well, it's. Let me make sure.
Or is it 19th?
I think it's the 19th century. It's like the mid 1800s. So I think it's the 19th century. Um, do you think I should like screen share the document or just read it?
Yeah, screen share it. Let
Okay.
give
Let
the
me see if
people
I can
some visual components.
see. You have to like enable me to.
Mm.
Oh, Nate, while you're at it too,
Sorry.
are you in the split screen view so you can see both of us?
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
How do I? Bro, I'm gonna make you the host. That way you can screen share.
Word. All right. Now
Yeah.
I'm sharing this. That's not right.
Oh,
Now can you see it?
yes. There we go.
Okay, word. So I threw this document together. So again, these three are like the people who were kind of like the first people to get into this kind of thing. So this is going to get us into our dopamine fasting experiment.
Oh yeah, we gotta talk about that.
So just so everyone knows, like we might talk about this for a while because this shit was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
So
is gonna blow some minds. Let's go through this first, then we'll get into the dope fasting.
okay, so I had written this little thing, the pursuit of New England transcendentalism as a source of understanding during a period of forced dopamine fasting. So we'll get into dopamine fasting after, but just to go over the New England transcendentalism, it's basically a very nature focused way to understand the world, which is a lot of what we talked about in the last podcast. If you guys caught that, we were talking about a lot about our upbringing and how Nate and I had like some really profound experiences. Excuse me, I'm so sorry, with nature in our families, and it kind of like taught us a lot about the world. So I saw into this and I was like, okay, this is really fucking cool. So I don't want to read everything here because you guys can obviously see it, but the definition, it was a philosophy and a social movement, and it basically states that intuition and personal revelation should be the source of knowledge. So essentially you shouldn't learn shit from books or an education. It's a little out there, I know. You should learn from like having revelations basically with your own self. And it believed in pantheistic gods. So basically either you can worship any god or none at all. It doesn't matter. It wasn't discriminatory. And so this guy Ralph Waldo writes an essay called Nature, where he goes over the philosophical constitution of transcendentalism, and essentially, like, this kind of goes into, um, he talks about his views on people, like hoping that people would branch away from conformity and becoming self-reliant. And he has these quotes here, so I just want to read a couple of these because they're really fucking cool. The greatest delight which the fields and woods minister is a suggestion of an occult relation between man and the vegetable. Then the sun illuminates only the eye of the man, but shines into the eye and the heart of the child. And then finally, I am standing on the bare ground, my head bathed by the blithe air and uplifted into the infinite space. All mean egotism vanishes. I become a transparent eyeball. I am nothing. I see all. The currents of the universe being circulate, the universal being circulate through me. I am part and particle of God. So
So should we like are we gonna break these down? I feel like we gotta like dissect these quotes a little bit.
I think that'd be cool, bro. Go like if you want to start with the first quote, or do you want me to go like whatever you want to do?
Let's just do this organically. So like the greatest delight which the fields and woods minister is the suggestion of an occult relation between man and the vegetable. Like that is such a flowery and fruity way to harp on that existential idea of there's no difference between you, me, and a tree. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, okay, I'm glad that you're highlighting the occult thing
Yeah.
because the suggestion of an occult relation, like, pardon me, something pagan about that at the time in the 1800s. um I mean, that was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's right on the heels of the humanist movement of the scientific revolution and like the great
Yes.
thinkers in France.
Yes.
It might be like 100 years after or something, but there is this massive movement where there was total piety toward a god for a very long time, and that was the main way of thinking was we are but servants. And then
Mhm.
it became, well, man is more, we are the ones that make, you know, we do what we want with God's creation at this point.
Right.
um, and I fucking love this because it's like, oh, let's understand that everything we've done before is a construct. The occult relation, it's like he's making fun of the fact that religious individuals or conservatively minded people for that time, uh,
Hmm.
and I don't mean politically, I mean like just traditionally thinking,
Yes.
they'll be like, oh my goodness, like how could we be the same as
As
like
the plant.
right, right, right. That
And
shit's so cool.
it's so fucking cool. And it does sound like some hippy dippy shit. Um, but that's dope. And like obviously if you know anything about Thoreau and his relationship with nature, like
He rips that shit.
that's what it
Love it.
is. It's so cool. So basically, like to move on to this next one too, the sun illuminates the only the eye of the man, but shines into the eye and into the heart of the child. I was reading further into that. I had written this little thing out that says you need to have the will of a child to understand nature. So basically, like he's just saying, like if you're not open-minded, like you're saying, like if you're not if you're conservative in your thoughts and traditions, you're not going to be like you're not going to be able to learn. So
Yeah,
if your eyes are closed, you can't see. Like that it's that simple. And that does seem obvious, but I think that this relates to nature specifically because nature is the teacher of this philosophy. And if you don't have an open mind to what nature is telling you or an open eye, then you're not going to see it. And I think
yeah,
goes a lot into what we were talking about last podcast of spending time in the outdoors and learning, like because that's what we used to interact with. That's what we know how to interact with. That's what we understand at an innate level somewhere in our biology. But
right,
we didn't
right.
grow up understanding that. We didn't grow up necessarily like in nature the way that people did years before us. Maybe you
Right.
and I spent more time in nature than others, but you know, like we kind of moved away from that. Now we're understanding technology and that kind of thing. And I think that this transcendentalism, New England transcendentalism, and the focus on nature allowing you to understand what's going on in your world, like I think nature might have a lot more answers than the things that we spend time doing now as opposed to nature.
Yeah, yeah, dude. I don't think you're wrong about that. I definitely agree. Like, I think we're probably like two big proponents of nature as a teacher. Like,
Yeah.
I'll never disagree with you on that. I do think though, like what you're saying about the child not being able, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be able to like totally rephrase it, but I think you were saying a child doesn't know how to interpret some of the things of nature that maybe a child from another time would, who wasn't so steeped in technology and the 21st century like
Mm-hmm.
cultural zeitgeist we have right now. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think when Waldo says the sun illuminates only the eye of the man, but shines into the eye and into the heart of a child, is that saying literally? a child and a man, or is that saying he who thinks like a child and retains that childlike perspective? Like, um, I don't know if you've like if you can remember your thought processes as a child. Like I've been doing this shadow work thing recently where you try and recall a memory
Mm-hmm.
from when you were like 8, 9, 10, an easily accessible memory, right? But then from that memory, you try and create the scaffolding around it where it's like, during this memory, I felt this way, and I thought of this as this, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you can kind of remember your personality from that stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so that, like, so then you know what I mean? Like a child takes everything in
Yeah.
as just pure novelty. There's no judgment passed. It's just, this is what this is, you know?
100%. Dude, I think that that's kind of what I was saying, but I think I said it wrong, like just in a way that you might have misunderstood it. I think
Yeah, yeah.
what I was trying to say is that, and that, like, that's exactly the point of this quote, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the article that I was reading. Like, you need to think like a child. You need to have the openness and the vulnerability and even the naivete of a child to really
Yeah,
understand, you know? So, I completely agree with that. And like I was saying before, like I was trying to say, like, we still all have that within us, that ability to produce that thought process.
yes,
But
yeah, yeah.
sometimes, like, I think the distractions of the modern day are very strong to the point where they 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 can stop us from pursuing that kind of ideology.
Yeah.
Not that we don't have the ability to still interpret it, but like we could be distracted. But we don't need to get into technology, like, because we've already been in there, like, a few
Yeah.
times. But like you're saying, dude, to focus more on what you're saying, I think um that's the brilliance of this statement. It's like, if you can be, and that goes for everything, if you can be open-minded and you can, like, allow something, like, be humble enough to be taught instead of think that you know,
Mhm.
then that's it. I mean, you're going to start learning so much. I've been really trying in my life to talk less, and that's so fucking hard for me. I've never stopped talking since I was in elementary school. I haven't stopped talking. Like, and
Yeah,
like, I know how good it could be for me to just listen instead. But I don't always. So that's like, maybe I should go out in nature and listen, and maybe I should go out in nature, like, a room full of people that I would usually be talking the whole time, and just listen, and see what happens. Like,
dude. It's so okay. It's really interesting hearing you say that because, and I know we're kind of breaking from like our subject matter right now, but this shit's important. So
yeah.
we're gonna put this on the table. Like, uh, oh.
Let me stop the share real quick so that.
Yeah. Okay. So what I was gonna say, like, you feel like, oh, I don't listen enough. Like, um, I need to stop talk. Like, I think what can happen is we get dissatisfied with our own talents, right? So, like, you're somebody who naturally you can just talk really easily. And that's something that you should realize, like, that's a boon, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's something that really helps you in a lot of ways.
Right.
And only because you're naturally talented in that respect, and just the nature of that talent is it should be expressed the same way somebody who was really skilled at painting would want to express that trait. You shouldn't feel like, oh, well, fuck, I need to restrict this trait because maybe somebody else who can't paint as well as I can is going to be uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Um, I think it's totally noble to be like, um, oh, I shouldn't, I don't want to talk over people. I don't want to dominate the conversation. Um, but like, do you really do that? Do you really not have the ability to listen to other people? I know, like, obviously those questions are for you to answer, but
Right.
I know at least like for the 8 episodes we've been doing this podcast, like it wouldn't work if you weren't able to listen. So like,
Yeah, I'm definitely good at listening, but as well as talking, I'm better at talking than I am at listening, but I do still, I don't ever want to be cutting somebody off, that kind of whole thing. But I think what's curious to me is an opposite experience. So
hmm,
like I'm not really like shitting on myself for it, but it's something I'm conscious of. There's this band, do you know Dawes, the folk band?
no. Dawes. Wait, how do you spell that?
Dawes, fucking
Okay.
fantastic. Dude, I gotta send you some music from them.
Okay.
Their lead singer-songwriter is like the most amazing lyricist ever. I don't know if
Really,
you're into folk really.
it really depends. There's some stuff that's barely considered folk that I'll like, but then
Okay.
there's other stuff that's really considered folk, and I'm like, whoa.
Too much.
Yeah, it depends though. So
So
I'll give it a listen.
yeah, there's an album. It's a red album. I am gonna shout this out because it's fucking anyone who likes folk and doesn't know Dawes, like you got. I mean, oh, it's called Nothing Is Wrong. I'm gonna listen to this shit soon. I haven't listened to it in years, but one of the things that he says, he just speaks symphonies with his lyrics. It's amazing, and you can see everything that he says. And one of the things that he says in one of his songs is, "The words I say could be silver, but what's left unsaid could be gold."
Ooh,
Yeah, and it's just cool. It's like, okay, like the perspective of other people is equally important to my own. And if I talk through every conversation, I could miss that, right? Like, whereas, like, if I, like, me speaking is an opportunity for somebody else to speak that didn't happen. That doesn't mean I shouldn't speak, but that means I should be conscious of that because
wait. What was the lyrics again?
the
Because
words I say could be silver, but what's left unsaid could be gold.
I interpreted that different. So, like, I already like, barring this podcast, I'm not an insanely talkative person. I'm talkative to people I'm comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
but I am not talkative to people who I don't really know. Because it's just like, yeah, I'm just shy about it. So
Yeah.
when I hear like what I say could be silver, like that sounds like, okay, yeah, whatever I put forth, it's like, okay, now a bar has been set, now a standard is established, but what is left unsaid could be gold. If you just say nothing, then it's like people could have a higher uh, perception of what you could possibly say and be. Like,
Mhm.
that was how I immediately interpreted it. Like,
Yeah, that's cool.
I think that speaks to the difference between like what we both struggle with or how we view the world though.
Mm-hmm.
Because
For
like,
sure.
yeah, mine immediately went to like an anxious place. Like,
Well, but also a very conscientious place. Like both of ours did, I think. Like
yeah,
you saying like if you don't speak, it could be more. Like, is that what you're saying? Like it could be even better if you refrain instead of where I said somebody else was speaking, it'd be better. Than you said if I don't speak, it would be better.
like you right. Like if I don't speak, then perhaps people's perception of me would be that much higher,
Mm,
right? Which
yeah,
isn't that fucked up?
yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah, it
little
is.
bit like self-deprivating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, it's weird because I'm actively fighting against this mindset the same way you're actively fighting against I don't want to talk too much, even though I know what to say. So like
Yeah.
you get we're approaching the same midpoint from opposite ends of the continuum. It's like, are we succeeding by reaching that midpoint? Like that's not a rhetorical question. Like seriously, like
Yeah, are we? I I think this is why it's so fun to talk to you because we just have the same fucking goal, but we don't get it's like we're both going to the same place, but you're on a fucking motorcycle and I'm in like a fucking spaceship, and
Yep.
like I'm the whole time I'm like I'm gonna get there for sure, and you're like there's no fucking way I'm gonna get there, but we're
Yeah.
both still going there.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's like such a different way to see the world, but
Dude,
yeah.
this is why we got a trip together. I'm
Yeah. Oh yeah.
telling you, that is gonna be fucking nuts. Like,
We do have to do that.
hell, I don't want to be rude. I have to pee so bad right
Send it. I'll go too.
now. Okay, all right.
Bet.
It'll be 2 minutes tops. I might grab
Dude.
more wine too. I feel like yeah, I need a
Yeah.
refresh. Boom.
I just dropped the name of that song. It's called "If I Wanted Someone" by Dawes while you were gone.
Okay. All right. All right.
Um,
I should check that thing out tomorrow.
yeah, I'll send you a couple ones from that album that I really like. It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad, boy, which you might like.
What's it like? Like, what's give
It's
me a touch,
slow.
a musical touchstone.
It's it's slow. It's emotional. It's a thought experiment for sure, and like you have to be like you really one of those things where you're really doing a disservice to the song if you aren't listening to everything he says, which can be a turn off for people that really enjoy the music portion of the music, but like the instrumental portion of the music. But
Okay.
I think you might like it. I really do. There's a couple of really good ones on there. The Moon and the Water, and just for anyone who wants to check these out, The Moon and the Water, and A Little Bit of Everything are like two of my favorite ones on that album. I'll show you them. We'll listen to them, or I'll send to you and listen to. But they're
Yeah.
really good.
But I'll look into it.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it bums me out so much. Like, and I'll be legal. I can buy real weed from a dispensary now.
Whoa.
That's gonna be the first thing I fucking do.
I feel like I really did a disgrace to weed by not going to the dispensary yet, but I just have no money.
You haven't gone to the dispensary yet? Just
Oh.
buy like a blunt.
Yeah, you can do that, right? Like not for
Yeah.
that much money.
Yeah, like $15.
I should do
I
that.
know it's a lot. It's a lot for one joint or
But if I
whatever.
bring it home and smoke it with the boys, like it's worth it.
Exactly. It's like trying out like a new IPA or something. Like, oh,
Yeah.
this strain is. I'm gonna be such a dickhead about that. I'm
Oh,
so
sure.
excited for it. Just like
Why
what
wouldn't you?
strain gets you like a more oaky undertone while also like
Dude, let's talk about that. Let's talk about why it's been labeled as a douchey thing to be passionate about something that you enjoy.
facts.
Fuck.
Well, do you mean just with drugs or just in general?
In general, it's yeah, with drugs, the majority is like, beer and weed. It's like kind of a I don't know, like everyone has seen the IPA like memes with the dudes being douchey about IPAs, that kind of thing. You and I both enjoy IPA, and then like weed too. It's like I don't know. I guess for whatever reason, one reason or the other, like people like make it a point to be like, "Oh, you fucking like douche!" Like, come on, it's fun.
It is fun, dude. People get pissed off because it's like, you know, one, it's a passion,
Hmm.
and people who don't have passions don't like it when other people have passions. Um, but two, it is difficult, right? Because some people get addicted to this stuff, and then it's like a trigger area for them where
Right.
they're like, wait, you're passionate about the thing that destroyed my life? You're a fucking idiot. And it's
Hmm.
like, I can empathize with those people, but I also need those people to empathize with the fact that I am not at the place that they're at. And just genetically, sometimes humans are so different, where
Yeah.
it's like one person can be passionate about and enjoy one thing, whereas it will destroy the other person's life.
So
Like,
interesting how that works too.
dude, but it can happen with everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Like,
addiction for everything. When I was in school for phys ed before I switched to business, we took a whole course on wellness that went over addiction for the majority of the course. I mean, there's exercise
yeah,
addiction, there's shopping addiction, everything. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter what it is, it's your brain. And like, more than likely, you're filling a void of something else, that um, that's causing you to be dependent on that. But more specifically with alcohol, what's really interesting is some people are like genetically predisposed to be more likely to be an alcoholic, and like that goes back to your genealogy with like where
yeah.
your ancestors are, and like how much alcohol your ancestors consumed, and how well your brain and body does processing that alcohol you know
Isn't that so weird though?
it's so weird because
Like
it's
my
like
grandpa determines how much beer I can drink before I'm like, oh, I have a chemical dependency. Like,
so horrifying, because I had read, I like, like classic, like read an article, think you're the expert in it. Like I had written a paper on alcoholism freshman year,
yeah,
or maybe first semester of sophomore year in my drugs and society course, and it was like basically saying like 2 to 3 drinks a week, or 2 to 3 drinks a night for more than like 3 times a week on average can lead to a dependency, blah blah blah, stuff like that. So like those are
do you believe
small
that?
numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
And at the time I was like, fuck man, like I gotta keep track of my drinks and that kind of thing, like like this is gonna make me an alcoholic. But I think there's a lot more factors that come into play. I think
Yeah,
that your biology comes into play in the way that some people are alcoholics more easily than others. And I also think it's like, what are the other things in your life that are important to you, and are they more important than the alcohol? Because in that case, I think a lot of the time that will stop a dependency from happening in the first place. I know scientifically, I don't know if that holds true, but
dude. Okay. Um, this like you watched that opioid video, right?
I got like halfway through.
Okay, okay, but you watched the first chapter.
I wasn't bored. I just ran out of time.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, for the audience, we watched this absolutely terrifying and horrific video
Mm-hmm.
um, that the New York Times put out about opioid addiction. Um, and it basically detailed three different accounts of how this addiction affected other people. And every single time it was an addiction to fentanyl or heroin laced with fentanyl. Um, and like I'm already like it's pissing me off just thinking about it. Like I was watching it just for a school assignment and I was on the verge of tears. It made me so upset and angry because it lays out these people who just fall into addiction, you know? And we're talking about addiction right now. We're talking about how you can have the difference between a passion and a real straight up addiction. And of course, it's not just genetic because some of these people, they're not, they're not genetic outliers. They're not extra predisposed to it. The problem is that for a lot of these people, they don't have communities, they don't have loving relationships, they don't have strong support systems. It's so fucking sad because the relationships that they do have are all centered around the drug. So it's no longer a thing of, and part of it is because we demonize these drugs so much in our culture that it creates subcultures where the drug is the main focus. And I mean, we're lying to ourselves if we don't think weed does that. Weed, like people who smoke a lot of weed and know a lot about like the strains and shit, that's its own subculture.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a whole subculture just revolving around one drug. Somebody who's really into that, what are you going to do? Give up your social support system or um, every chance you have of socialization or just the way that you know how to interact with people just so that you're no longer using a drug anymore? No, that person is going to be so, so, so resistant to getting off of weed in their instance. With
Mm-hmm.
heroin, it's so much different
Yeah.
because it's such like a traumatic thing. They like nobody does heroin and is proud of it, you know? You have some like 16, 17-year olds that wear like pot leaf socks and they're like, yo, I'm proud of the fact that I smoke weed. And then they grow up a little. They get to like 20 or 21 and they're like, yeah, like I smoke weed sometimes, but they're not like proud of it. Like
Yeah.
nobody who's smoking, like nobody who's injecting heroin or fentanyl is proud of it.
Yeah.
It's a weird trauma bond that they've made with the people
Yeah.
that they associate with.
Yes.
And the craziest part about that New York Times documentary that we watched was the fact that all of these people, a common thing with them was, I need to stop associating with the people who I used to associate with. And it's like, dude, um, one of the hardest things you can do is give up your social circle. Let's say, yeah, let's say your friends all have crazy political views. What if all of your friends are into QAnon? The likelihood of you adopting QAnon views, very, very, very high. The
Right.
likelihood of you telling all of them to grow up or distancing yourself from them, extremely low.
Right.
And that's not a personal judgment. It's literally just it's basic psychology. People do not want to make themselves uncomfortable. So it was like this whole addiction thing is so scary because of the social systems that it creates.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do we stop addiction? How do we make sure that we change it? We need to create better social systems and areas of support for people who are trying to recover.
You
Like,
know, and weed, the legalization or the decriminalization and the sale of weed has been promoted or approved due to the fact that there were promises that the money on the taxes of that weed was going to facilities for that will give people rehabilitation for free.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and that's really dope. I think that's a great fucking idea. I don't know if it's gonna work. I don't know if everyone's gonna have enough access to
I
it.
I hope it does. I hope it does.
Fingers crossed, man. I believe like I am ready to try it. You know, I'm not gonna be like, well, it's not gonna work. Well, fuck you. How do you know it's not gonna work? We haven't tried it yet.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
haven't tried it yet. We could do it. Like, and that's that kind of closed-mindedness. That's that kind of like adult only, the sun only hits the adult's eye. It doesn't,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yo, good fucking callback. That's
yeah,
beautiful. Because
like
yeah, fuck, fuck the adult way of thinking. Just be
isn't this isn't this America? Isn't this the country that you say can do and be anything? And and fuck you for turning that around and having a double standard and
yeah,
saying that it's not gonna work. Well, we haven't fucking tried it yet, dickhead.
yeah.
Like
Fuck the man.
fuck the man.
I mean, I we're definitely a little drunk right now.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
but that's fine
It's
because
good.
we're speaking we are speaking truths that we're just fucked up enough to admit, right?
That's right. That's right. And if you have somebody in your family that has an addiction,
Yeah.
you have to love them unconditionally. I mean, that's something that I fully believe in. Just to like finish up this point, because Nate and I have seen the same TED Talk. I don't know if we talked about this in the last podcast or not,
I don't think
but
we did. The Johan Hari one, I don't
that's
think
right. It's exactly what you're saying. It's
it's
a
deep.
culture of people you don't want to give up, and those people have a chemical dependency because the drug is the only thing that they think they can relate to. Not a chemical dependency, sorry, like a mental like connection, because they think that the drug is the
Yeah,
only thing that
yeah.
they can relate to and believe in. Um, and
It's the only
everything
thing that
else,
gives them comfort
that's
or
right.
a sense of home. Yeah.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
nothing else gives them that sense. That's
Right.
what this TED Talk is about. So it's like love somebody who you know who is going through a hard time, because the fact that you are being cold to them actually is worsening it. Like according to this TED Talk. Kind of a tough advice to give to somebody who like from someone who has never been in that situation, I know, but that's what the
Dude,
TED Talk's about.
I think they're right. Like this that documentary we watched, like it made me think for like a solid day. I was like, do I want to dedicate my life in terms of like mental health rehabilitation towards addiction?
Mm.
Like, because it made me so fucking sad.
Mm.
Like, how does this happen? Do you remember
Yeah.
that first chapter with I think his name was it Joseph or Jonathan? Um,
I don't remember, but
the
yeah,
first guy, basically this guy, he
that's
was
one I
addicted
saw.
to fentanyl, and he bankrupted his parents by asking for money over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And right, he fucked them out, he fucked them over. He did a ton of things that were awful, and he feels insanely guilty about now that he'd been to rehab like 2 times,
Mhm.
and now that he's finally stopping. One line hit me so fucking hard. um, he was talking about how his family still thought about him. And he was like, my parents say they're proud that I'm their son and they love me because I'm their son. And I just can't understand why they would want that or why they can be proud of me. It's like, uh,
That proves.
I, yeah.
No, Nate, that is so fucking horrifying. And that really proves the whole thing about people with addictions don't have that support system. They don't
Yeah.
understand why somebody would love them. But
Isn't
they think that the drug loves them, and that's why they're dependent on it.
But it's so sad because his parents loved him unconditionally through the whole thing. He cost them $200,000 worth of debt.
Mm.
Like, he basically bankrupted them and they still stood by him. And the only thing that he could think was, why the fuck are they doing this? I'm a piece of shit. So, I mean, and that is his thoughts after he's reformed. I
Right.
mean, let's look at the behavior of addicts when they're deep in the thralls of a drug. They're dismissive. They can't admit wrong.
Yeah.
Um, it is full control of the ego. There
Yeah.
is no soul showing through. Your ego has your fucking soul in a guard. It's like, oh, I'm choking your shit out right now, boy, and there's nothing you can do about it. And
No
it's
empathy.
no empathy. No empathy. You can't have empathy if your ego is totally in control. You just
And
can't.
you can't have empathy if you're depending on something like that that's
Yeah.
that addictive and that powerful to make you happy. Um, yeah, it's
Dude,
so sad.
I briefly, so I want to talk about, like, I've been trying to like quit nicotine. This is in no way equivalent to ditching a heroin or any kind of opioid. Yeah, yeah. Let's part and parcel. It's different.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to compare myself for anybody listening. It's
This is
not
a new subject now. We're
new
moving more
subject.
into it's the parents are the same, but this it's different.
Yeah, yeah, it's different. It's
Yeah.
different. So, I've noticed that I was using it for such a long time that it became an aspect of myself. And I was texting you through the whole time that I was trying to get off of it.
Mhm.
And a big thing I noticed was I'm so aggressive. Like, I remember saying to you, like, I'm scared that I'm going to be this aggressive once I'm done with all this. Like, because what happens then, right? Like, did all of this work that I've tried to put into myself over the past year or two, is it like there's an altered Nate where with nicotine my brain chemistry or brain patterns are somewhat different than they would normally be? Who knows? Um, so that was my initial fear.
Mhm.
Oh, excuse me. I did I did realize that the issue was for those 2 days, I was just withdrawing.
Yeah.
And when I'm withdrawing, it's so hard to not let the ego control you because you're putting so much effort into fighting it. So with an insidious drug like any opioid, that withdrawal period is so fast. You start withdrawing so quickly,
Right.
especially because it's a complicated delivery system. With nicotine, you just go, you hit a vape, but with an like with heroin or something like that, you gotta inject it. Like
It takes time. It takes resources. Your brain knows it's gonna take you longer to get that fix. And dude,
right,
I think like to reflect back on, your dependence on nicotine when it first started, I'm assuming, and let me know if I'm wrong, it was like kind of a social thing,
yeah,
right? But
dude, I didn't even. I tried to get addicted to it. Like, it was the
okay,
first summer of quarantine. I was like, I'm bored. It's so hard to get addicted to nicotine. Let me try this. But then I suffered through it. But then I was like, oh fuck, you can actually get addicted to this?
okay, because I do remember you saying that you knocked it over, like over some vacation. I think at the start of when we left school, and you were like, I didn't even withdraw. It's not
Yeah,
real.
multiple times I've knocked it, but it hasn't been permanent.
So here's my question.
Okay, all right, yeah,
Do
what's
you
up?
think? No, no, wait. Were you about to say something? I just didn't.
I was just gonna say, like, multiple times I've scaled back, but then I've stopped for a week or 2 weeks
Right.
or maybe 3 weeks. But it's always felt different than now. It's always just been like, oh, well, I'm done for now. But then
Yeah.
always like, well, in a couple weeks, I can just get a hit and it's going to be good, you know? But it
Now
doesn't
that
feel like that now.
Yeah,
Go.
now that you're like kind of like, okay, maybe I could really stop doing this. The consequences of you stopping are more powerful in your head. Do you think that when you started it, it was like a social thing, but then when you continued, it was like a thing where like you didn't have to battle as many battles when you were using it?
Ooh, I like that. Okay, so when I started it, it wasn't a social thing. So obviously at Springfield, all my roommates they vape,
Mhm.
and I didn't for the longest time. I got into it over the summer, and back home, none of my friends vape. They're really against it.
Yeah.
Um, so that was almost more of like a rebellious thing. Um, and it's like emotionally read into that how you will, because there's definitely something there.
Right.
Uh, but it wasn't a social pressure thing. I did feel like after a little bit though, I could deal with so much more when I was on nicotine,
Mm.
because if I had, it felt like a little chemical hug. Um, and I was talking to you about this before the podcast. Um, but it does feel like that. Like you take a hit and you're just like, okay, I just took a deep breath. It feels like this quick little meditation shortcut. Um, like, yeah, you get this weird like sense of comfort, but it's fake comfort. It's all bullshit. It's just it's a chemical that is diluting you. Um, and I'm not gonna lie, all day today, my girlfriend came up this weekend, and she was amazing in helping me to not give into it. Um, and I think some of the frustrations that I had with like, you know, not being able to have that chemical hug all the time, I think I took it out on her in a totally unproductive way, which I shouldn't have done. But like she left earlier today. Throughout the course of the day, I've been challenged so many fucking times, like, just drive. It's 6 minutes. Go drive down to the Haji Mart, pick up another vape. Your boy Ron's got it for you. You know that. And it's like, ooh, I fucking shouldn't. what decided what decided it all for me, I lifted today, and my girlfriend's been here all weeks or all weekend, so I haven't really been able to lift. I lifted today. Oh my God. I felt like I was back to like before I used nicotine. I was a sicko about lifting.
Mm.
I got such a good pump. Not only did I get a good pump, but my energy was so consistent through the entire workout. I didn't feel a distraction, you know? It was like I was so presently there. And the interesting thing is the being present. It's not the fact that my workout was better. That was great. I loved that. I definitely had more energy, but not worrying that I had a nicotine addiction or void that I needed to fill. I was like, oh, I got to get through this so I can go rip something. It was like, I just got to do this now.
It was like there's nothing after this, so I better do this hard. Otherwise, I'm not going to be happy.
Yes,
Mm.
yes. And
Mhm.
the dangerous thing about nicotine is with my anxiety, I always want shit to be over. I
Yeah.
want like I gotta see the light at the end of the tunnel. And that little stick, the light on the end of it that tells you if you're ripping it or not, became that light at the end of the tunnel for me.
Mm.
And mentally, I was reaching the end of the tunnel before I'd even entered it. Like I was doing assignments and I was just ripping it the entire time and finding that piece of comfort and that chemical accomplishment without actually having to expend any effort for it. And
Yeah.
it's been fucking me up. And dude, that perfectly transitions to what we've been doing recently with everything's a drug. Let's
Dude,
fucking talk on that. Yeah.
we have been so excited to talk to you guys about this. Like, for
This
real,
shit's
this
sick.
is
Yeah.
me and Nate. Like, I feel like maybe sometimes it feels like Nate and I are talking to each other and not you, the audience, because, maybe that's how it feels like. Maybe it's not. Right now, we are talking to you. Like,
Yeah.
this is something we have been so excited to talk to you about. And, like, the original hype has kind of died down from our podcast. We're rocking like 50 constant views of, I'm
Fuck.
assuming, similar
It doesn't
people.
matter. It doesn't matter.
But no, but that's what I mean. That's like those people, like instead of getting that 250 views, 50 people, like those people like are like recycling our material or going, not recycling, but like continuing to consume. Those are our fucking people. So right now we're talking to you. Nate and I did an experiment. Nate and I did a fucking experiment this week. We talked about it on the last podcast. We wanted to do dopamine fasting, essentially, right? Is that
Yeah.
a good way to sum it up?
Now we did it in a like way less intense way though. Because like typical dopamine fasting, that's you consume nothing that makes you get any kind of dopamine rush for an entire day. Like we weren't really doing that.
Windows of dopamine
Yes.
fasting.
Yes.
Yeah, right. We weren't going insane, but or extreme, I should say. But we attempted to minimize our usage of shortcuts
Right.
to feel a certain way. So Nate just talked about nicotine. That was a complete shortcut that he used to feel less anxious.
Yeah.
Okay. The shortcuts, I mean, you've heard it a million times. Like that just doesn't work. Like in the long run, shortcuts cut short long runs. Like that's a Chance the Rapper quote. Chance the Rapper's kind of ass these days, but I was a big time fan of his old music. Like it's that's a real thing. So we were like, okay, what can we cut out? So Nate cut out. Nate's been doing DoorDash. He cut out. Well, wait, fuck. Let me talk about what I cut out, and you talk about what you cut out. My bad.
Okay.
Uh,
Well, I think we have a lot of intersection with what we cut out, I think.
Overlap. So
Yeah.
music is something big that we cut out. Okay.
Mhm.
So I cut out music in the gym. And I cut out music in the car. So I drive twice a week, about an hour, a little less than an hour, more like 40 minutes one way and 40 minutes the other way to go see my girlfriend at Amherst College, UMass Amherst. And so twice a week I do that. So that's about like it's like 3.5 hours of time every week that I drive. This week I didn't listen to music in the car. And I also didn't listen to music in the gym. And I would do sessions of time when I was not on my phone at all, whether I was with Carolyn or just in my room reading a book or something like that. So Nate, what were your like windows of?
It wasn't like as restricted. I was just trying to hit like 4 hours. So like my big thing constantly, I'm home right now. I don't have roommates. I literally just have my parents, and 90% of the time they're at school, right? They're both teachers, so they're at their schools working. So I normally have a podcast playing in my ears, or I have some kind of music, or I'm watching some kind of TV show. So for this, during the day, like before 5 o'clock, I just said, fuck that. I can't do it. So I wasn't listening to a podcast when I woke up. Um, excuse me. I wasn't listening to music while I was making my breakfast. I wasn't listening to music while I was lifting or running. Um, I will say when I was doing my door dashes, dude, one day I tried it without music or podcasts or anything like that, and I wanted to shoot myself. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to implement that. Um, but during the day, totally starving myself of that, and then trying my hardest to, we were talking about the nature thing earlier, get out into nature without any kind of tech on me, leave the phone at home, leave your earbuds at home. I bring my dog and like some treats for him. And then it's like, what can I learn? Like, I you should share your gym experience, because I feel like we both experienced benefits from this in a very different way. But you shared your gym experience with me on the first day, and I was like, holy fucking shit. Like it it made me so much more energized for this whole challenge.
It
So
really fired me up when I was, in the midst of doing this experiment. So, just as a precursor too, Nate and I discovered in doing this that when you decide to remove shortcuts and refocus on your actual life that you live consciously
yeah.
instead of subconsciously through the shortcuts that you take, you start to put energy and effort into the things that you really want to be better at. So I really want to be better at lifting. I have been lifting since freshman year or senior year of high school, never consistently enough, never to the point where I feel like I've been able to make like a good visual progress that I've been happy with. Now I understand like more than likely I'm going to lift for the next 20 years and longer, and I might never be happy with the way I look, but that's something I'm working on. But, that's my area of focus right now. And that's something that I have poured more focus into than anything else. My schoolwork, this podcast, photography this semester. I've been working in the gym harder than anywhere else. And I've found that that's where I had the most profound results when I eliminated my shortcuts. So, um, I go to the gym without music, but the gym plays music on the radio. So I got my AirPods in, the AirPod Pros. They got the noise cancellation. So I got my AirPod Pros in to cancel out the radio.
do you
And
realize
then
how crazy that is, by the way? I've got my AirPods in to make sure I hear no music.
to make sure I can't listen to the music. And dude, oh, every time I left the gym, I wanted to call Nate. I was like, oh, I'm fired up right now because
Yeah.
so this is what everyone needs to hear. The first session in the gym, I had him in, and halfway through my lift, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna leave. And through my last superset of activities, through like halfway through during that superset of activities, I was convincing myself slowly, like, I'm gonna go after this. I'm tired. I was right after we recorded the last podcast. I was like, I'm tired from last night. I was drinking, I smoked, I'm shot out, and I was just like, oh my God, the inner fucking bitch was just eating me alive. And I had this fucking like kumbaya moment where I was like, oh my God, I'm not listening to music, and that's why I'm being such a fucking bitch. And that's why I can't finish this workout because I'm not listening to music. And then I was like, oh man, I really got to work on this because now that it's just me, like you're so soft that the second that the music stopped and it's just you in your head, that you can't make it through a full 45 to an hour minute workout. What?
Yo,
You
okay, everybody who's listening to this, I wish you could have heard the conversation that we had after Hale's first day back in the gym. Like not first day back, but first day on this, no
yeah.
music. The amount of alpha energy and just raw testosterone, ridiculous. Like,
It cut into something, it tapped into something that I didn't know I had. And in that first session, I literally, the second I realized it was because the music wasn't there, or the podcast, I started pacing around the gym and talking to myself. And there were other people in there. And I know they heard me. I had head turns. And I was like, you fucking bitch. You can't even finish an exercise, walking around, slapping my hands together, like pacing back and forth. Like, you better not be like this. Otherwise, you're not going to be shit. And I left and I said, oh my God, if I can't be with myself in my head when it's only me,
yeah,
then I can't do this. I'm never going to be able to do this. And so that was like my first revelation of like, I called Nate. I was like, man, I had a revelation in the gym. I was being a whole bitch and I'm not going to do that anymore. And I've said to Nate, I'm not going to just stop listening to music after this week in the gym. Probably I am going to listen to music again. But the second that I feel myself getting soft and the second that that internal dialogue gets turned down, I'm not going to listen to music anymore until I can recorrect because it's such a good way to just connect with your brain. And the
right.
most important part of this, I'm sorry, I'm taking so long to say, the most
You're good.
important
You're
part
good.
of this thing that I realized was my motivation internally was so much stronger than my motivation from an external source. And that little shortcut, that little drug, it didn't complete me in the way that I was super into what I was doing. I never knew why I was there. When I stopped listening to music and it was just me, I knew why I was there. I was there to get fucking big. That's
Yeah,
it. Not to listen
yeah.
to a podcast and feel good about myself.
But there's so much confusion that can happen at that level where you start using other things like um what I was talking about with like, you know, not having nicotine, doing a workout without nicotine, there's a lot of hunger there. The same way doing a workout without music or a podcast to constantly feed you something creates a lot of hunger. You know, it's all of the same thing of, well, fuck, this shit needs to come from here. Like, we talked about this off air, like, um, the period where like I was most into like lifting, it was all from within, but it was a deep, 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 deep self-hate. And you figured out how to tap into that exact same kind of motivation, except on a way better degree in a way healthier way.
Yeah.
Like that is fucking beautiful. Like,
So powerful. I can't
yeah.
even believe how little time it took to stop listening.
First day. First fucking day.
This will happen to you if you try this.
Yeah.
Please try this. It will happen to you because you have to understand that your brain is being subdued. It is being completely uh it's being made to be, what was that word that I said to you?
Manipulated,
No. Complacent.
complacent. There you go.
Our
Yeah.
shortcuts are intended to make us complacent.
Yeah.
Who is making money on your complacency? Any media you're consuming, somebody is making money on your complacency.
Yeah.
And if you can, like, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. The second you're alone in your head, oh my God, see how you do. You might not do well. Don't fucking be scared.
Yeah.
Figure it out because you might get I just got in a week, I think I just got 2 or 3 years worth of wisdom because instead of tuning into some bullshit side thing that made me complacent. I tuned into me, and then I started to just think, how many times a day are you not thinking because somebody else is listening to you? We plug ourselves with these things.
Yeah. And I mean, just for those people where it's like, okay, I don't want to get fucking huge. I don't need more motivation in the gym. I feel you. Like we were talking at the beginning of this, how areas where we feel like we were most impacted by our consumption of other media got fixed when we started doing this dopamine fasting or media fasting. Um, for me, that's schoolwork. Like I, it's for me, it's easy to be like, oh, okay, like I'll go hang out with friends, or I'll go do this intramural thing, or I'll go like, to the gym and put in a half-assed workout. But for me, I feel like it's so fucking hard to really get into my work. And during this, I got this sick obsession where it was like, okay, I'm going to sit down for the first time. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to do all my work. I started making little to-do lists, and we had a conversation off air where I was like worried. I was like, "Hey man, I'm worried I made all my little checklists a dopamine delivery system." I mean, like, this one's light, but if we want to take a look at this, like, list of all lists, I just did like classes, little things that need to get done, and I was either checking them off or striking them through with like a little black like marker. The dopamine hit from that when you're not consuming anything else, so like no drugs, no alcohol, no nicotine, no music, no entertainment, no TV shows, all of that, it's like you get such a good rush from that. I don't like, I understand that that sounds like a fucking drug addict telling you why you should do your shit, like, oh, you get a good rush, man. But like that really is what it is. You get so much dopamine from it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I noticed when I didn't have anything playing in my ear, my information retention was so much higher because I was actively engaging with what I was like working on. The drive to get that little dopamine treat at the end of that study session or at the end of the assignment made me so much more interested in what I was actually working on. So a lot of the stuff I was working on was for psych classes. So one of the things was writing this paper that was all about like research methods, right? I became so interested in a research article I was reading on like
Mm.
what why anxiety can make some people more reliant on certain types of food than other types of food. So boring. But because that little dopamine hit was hiding at the end of it, it was like, I want to pay attention to this. Like, so understand, like, the monotonous task of reading through a peer-reviewed article, then typing it up for a professor, or the monotonous task of raising a weight over your head time and time again to better yourself. Like, all of these things are not fun in and of themselves. They're repetitive and they're difficult. However, when that is the thing that delivers the most amount of dopamine, they are things that are going to better you. So that's really going to get just an extra little bit. Like it really helps. I hope I'm delivering that in the right like verbiage.
Dude, couldn't have understood you better. And I think
Okay.
that the thing that we've done as a society is made it easier to ignore uh what did I call it? Organic dopamine responses,
Yeah.
where, you know, it comes from a place of you just finished an assignment, cross it off, instead of, oh, Joe Rogan just said something cool that I like to hear. You know,
Yeah.
like I'm doing this assignment right now, but I'm flipping.
Right.
And I gotta tell you, that happened to me too with my history course. I love history. I've talked about it before. And it just brought some shit up that I was super interested in. And because like I would put my phone away while I'm doing my work, there's nothing. I can't look at it. I know I can't look at it. So it's like
Yeah.
instead, like let me dive into this and let me go off on 4, 5, 6 different tabs on Google Chrome and learn what this is and this is and this is, and then all of a sudden like I have a more full understanding of what I'm learning. And I think it's
Right.
so interesting to consider the different windows of passion that are opened once you eliminate the distractions in your life, you know.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay. Let me ask you a question. How much happier do you feel now that you have a better understanding of the shit that you're majoring in? Right?
So much better. Dude, the thing is, like,
Yeah.
it gives you a clear conscience.
Yes.
It's like,
You can't feel guilty. You just can't because you have nothing that you're distracting yourself with. So the only thing that would prevent you from fully diving into something is you being stupid. And we can't feel guilty about being dumb. Like if
mm,
we are dumb in certain areas, we just are. Like,
right, right.
but yeah, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm like stepping over.
No, no, dude,
Okay, all right, all
you're
right.
totally fine. What I'm saying is too, on top of that, in like complete congruency with that, is every step of this process has been a step towards becoming awake, like
Yeah,
waking up. And I
yeah,
think that that's why we're so fired up about this. Like that's why this is our third experiment, breathing, channeling flow states, and dopamine fasting in short windows. This has been by far the most effective and influential experiment we've done, and that's why we're so excited about it, and that's why we want you to try it, because I think this is a real step. Those other ones were little baby steps. This is a full step towards becoming awake, understanding who
oh,
you are, understanding what makes you happy, understanding what motivates you, intrinsically and extrinsically. Did I say that right?
yeah, yeah. Fuck.
Uh,
Even if
and
those aren't words, they are now.
facts. And just something, it's an exercise in getting
Yeah,
to know what your brain is actually thinking instead of what the complacency that comes with consuming things that your brain wasn't originally made to focus on.
bro. You know what I'm loving about this right now? I feel like we're on this monastic path of abstinence. Um,
Mm.
you might not like where I'm going with this, but so let's say because I'm really liking this challenge so far. I would not be opposed to extending it to 2 weeks. I do feel like for our challenges, we should make them a little bit longer. Maybe it's something we do for a month.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something we do for 2 weeks. But we should be doing, I mean, please, if you're still watching, let us know in the comments below. But um, I think it'd be a lot easier for people if we did little video reflections on it. So
Yeah.
these are things we can do on our own, or it's something that, like, I mean, I'd be so down to meet up over Zoom and we can kind of discuss how this thing went for us. But that might be a little bit easier to consume. We could do little mini, like 20-minute, 15-minute, 10-minute podcasts over it.
Yeah, little extras.
Right, right.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great idea. And I've been thinking about that too, taking a quick, even just like you and I meet up maybe in between, like at the halfway mark of a 2 week or a month long thing and talk about it. But also, you and I could do content every day where we just like take a video and I'm like, hey, this is how I'm doing right now. We're doing this shit. This is how I feel, and
Yeah,
post that to the story or the page so people can see it. Is that kind of like,
I think that would be cool. Like obviously, I mean, we have lofty views for what we want to do with this. I
yeah,
mean, it all comes down to what people are going to interface with. I think as long as we put it out, at least one person's probably going to come across it. So at least like for our own thing, we're probably going to do it regardless of how many people end up liking it. Just because like this is a lot of fun for us,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is, yeah, it's self-interested, but I think that'd be cool. I think that'd be really cool if we did some kind of like video journal and extended the length of
Mhm.
these studies and really put so much more time into it. Because I have felt like sometimes with journals, it's like by the fifth or sixth day, I'm like, I'm really noticing a change now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm also low key sick of writing it out.
Yeah,
It
same.
might be easier to speak it
It's a
into a video. Like just being fully honest with you guys, like that is part of the grind that comes with this podcast, and we are going to continue to give you the content that we think would be beneficial. But
yeah,
we might find new ways of doing it. Like, please do tune into our Instagram page at Blissfully Unaware Podcast, because we are going to post full fucking notes on this. Like when I tell you, sometimes I can write it out even better than I can say it. And like, I have written like full ass thoughts into my notes on this subject that came out really good. Like, in Nate's, I know Nate's did too. Like, just our analysis of this topic has been really good. So please, like, look forward to looking at those, and like digesting those in a different way. But yeah, I think definitely, like, if we can keep people updated, keep talking to people, because I think something that people maybe, like, if we were as interactive as we could be, then people would be more apt to join us, and that's really what we want, right? Like, we really want to, if we
yeah,
find something to be impactful, we want someone else to be like, okay, let me try this, because you can try it, like, and don't think you can't try it.
yeah, yeah. For
For a
this
day you could try
fast
it.
thing, especially, people should be trying this. It is so impactful. It's going to help you so much. I like we're not making any money off of this. We have nothing to gain. It's just going to help you so much.
And
Yeah.
the way to keep yourself accountable, because maybe if Nate and I weren't doing this together, then we wouldn't be as accountable, because I would be like, okay, well, I'm like, Nate's doing this, so I got to do this and make sure that I'm holding up my end of the bargain.
Yeah.
Use us to keep yourself accountable. Submit your notes to us, or at least submit like, hey, I'm doing this with you. Like, what are
Yeah.
you doing today? Like, and we will answer you. So yeah,
Yeah, dude. The DMs are open. The the
comment
subreddits
section is
are
open.
open. Please like submit shit. We will gladly interface. Yeah.
More
I
than
mean,
happy.
more than happy. Yeah. So I think, dude, okay. So I have one more thing that I want to say, and then we can call it. I'm sure we're close to like an hour and a half, 2 hours at this point.
Mhm.
So we've been doing like a reprieve from things. I mean, we've basically adopted the mindset that everything is a drug,
Right,
right?
right.
And I think that's been interesting because, yeah, on the chemical basis, everything is like. So we've kind of said abstinence approach. Fuck it. We've learned a lot about ourselves during this period.
Right.
Let's do it for another week.
Yeah.
Um, After that week, what happens when we take this new steeled mindset that we have and go the other direction with it?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
What happens when we subject ourselves to all kinds of other drugs and entertainment and media? Basically, can we survive because we want to have this kind of enlightened perspective? People who think of themselves as having an enlightened perspective, can we survive in a culture that creates extremely entertainment or um, consumption focused, like I don't even know. I don't know what the word for it is, but like, can we consume a lot of things and still be happy and still be productive? And
Yeah.
how is that going to affect the way that we think?
I
Right?
think that's a great idea. So you're saying finish out another week of abstinence of the
Yeah.
thing that we use as a, and then yeah, this is gonna work perfectly, because I'm gonna go home and my friends are a bunch of fucking stoners, dude. Like, it's not gonna be hard for me to go home and be fucked up.
Okay. All right.
So
Good.
that
Good. That's what we
that
need.
might be great. And then you're saying, like, let's see what happens, how we feel about the world and our ambitions and that. in that week. I
It's,
love that. And
yeah,
that's gonna be way more fun.
that's going to be, well, I don't know. I'm going to get to a dark place with that. We're going to try and indulge so much. Like,
Be short
indulge
term
to a bad
fun, and
degree.
yeah, it's gonna be. We won't cross the line. It's gonna be short term fun. It's not gonna be like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna look back and be like I'm proud of myself, but
No, no, no,
I'm
no.
gonna look back and say, well, I have some good fucking Snapchat memories.
But that's what we're gonna want, dude.
Mhm.
I think that's gonna be interesting because we need to take, because I do feel like this challenge we've done over the past week and that I want to keep doing for the forthcoming week. Um, I do feel, well, after once this comes out, it'll be for the past week too. So the past 2 weeks.
Right, right.
Um, but I want this to be one of those things where it's like we learned something from it, and I already feel like it's slightly changed my perspective.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
so I'm really wondering what it's going to be like when I reapproach. And obviously, like I've kind of cheated, right? Like we've been drinking through this whole thing. So
Both of us have cheated. Yeah.
yeah, we've cheated a little bit today. But if we're good through this next week, it's going to be so interesting to see where we are for the next, like for the next podcast and for the next week after that, and what kind of lessons and perspectives we bring through it.
So
Like how,
it's gonna be insane. Should we
yeah,
do a sober week? No weed, no beer, no music.
that's what I've been trying to do.
Let's shoot for
That's what
that.
we've both been trying to do, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, for sure. But I mean, I got to tell you what, like I've had some beer and I've had some music like outside of the windows, but maybe like,
Well, yeah. I mean, we should exist within those windows. The same way we're not going to do, like, we're not going to be smoking all day long or
okay,
drinking
smart,
all day long in the
smart.
not sober period,
Right.
right? Like, let's give ourselves, I feel like 4 to 5 hours is a very manageable period.
Agreed.
4 to 5 hours, there needs to be absolutely nothing.
Agreed.
No music, no entertainment, no drugs, no whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other side, once we are doing the consumption period, it needs to be for 4 to 5 hours, all entertainment plus drugs plus whatever else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna be really good. That's gonna be
That's gonna it's gonna be a lot of fun, but it's also really gonna test us.
yeah, agreed. Yeah. That's gonna happen. I mean, that was probably gonna happen when I went home anyways, just because I have a lot of catching up to do with some buddies. But
Yeah, yeah,
I think once it's reflective, it's different. Like, you could do something subconsciously and not be affected by it, but when you're thinking
right.
about how it's affecting you, it's a lot different. So
And I think that's what's going to be the big thing. Like, dude, after these 2 weeks, then I don't want to do 2 weeks of the totally off the wagon, indulge in anything, just because like
yeah.
I get up to some mischief with 2 weeks. Like, I just don't want to do that to myself.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that'll be smart. The podcast after that, when we like fully like are able to discuss all of this, we are either going to be a mess or we're going to have some crazy insights.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Fuck,
sick, dude.
I'm really excited.
Dude, we're doing a good thing here. We want you to come along with us. Please let us know what you're thinking, what you're doing, if you're involved in any of the things we're doing. And we'll fucking shout your ass out, whatever you want. Like,
Yeah,
we are really into the idea of you participating in this. So we want to help ourselves and we want to help you. And so that's pretty much the main thing.
yeah.
Dude, let's call it here. And
We
just
didn't introduce it again, but that's fine.
yeah, I've been doing the voiceovers, so I'll introduce
That's
it
smart.
now.
Yeah.
We didn't introduce it. This is episode 8.
Episode 8, baby.
We're getting old. We're getting strong. We're hoping you're fucking with us. Please don't stop listening. Please don't stop. Uh, you know, promoting. If you wanna, like do your thing. Like if you like us, let us know. You know how to let us know if you like us. And yeah, thank you for the listen.
Thank you so much. Like, yeah, it goes a long way because we really do put a lot of effort into this. Like,
Yeah.
it takes more energy than you think. it's fun. It's fun, but like we hope that somebody else can get this like knowledge that we're looking up and spending the trying to accrue. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much.
yeah. All
Till
right.
next time.
Till next week.